Hey, futurist Jim Carroll from the virtual broadcast studio. It's Friday, and I'm doing another one of my Ask.A.Futurist sessions where I've been taking questions from people about the future, about trends, about innovation, about disruption, about our post pandemic world. And all this is happening from my virtual broadcast studio. You wouldn't know it, but I'm down in my basement, and there is a bit of a thrill when I go live in front of these cameras because I've been inside this basement for about a year now. I can't wait until maybe one day I get to escape. Now, here's what today's story is around. I put out a tweet this morning about the rapid changes occurring in the world of healthcare, and I observed that, look, in the world of medical knowledge, we've gone from a situation in which the volume of medical knowledge is going from doubling every 8 years to every 78 days. And that's one of the impacts of what has occurred with COVID-19. But it is also a trend that has been underway for quite some time. And this is a staggering trend because what this does is it leads to the massive acceleration of healthcare science. It leads to the emergence of new healthcare professions. It challenges the healthcare and medical community with the need to master new knowledge, new procedures, new forms of diagnosis, new pharmaceuticals, new stuff, new technologies all the time. And this is the type of trend that I will often talk on stage about because it really puts into perspective the reality of what happens with that tagline of mine, look, the future belongs to those who are fast. And we've witnessed this through the last year with the arrival of a pandemic and a global vaccination program based on multiple different vaccine candidates. I mean, we have never lived in a world that has seen so much dramatic change. And this is directly related to this fact that the volume of medical knowledge is now doubling every 78 days as opposed to every 8 years, perhaps just a decade ago. But when I put out a tweet like this with statistics like that and put in perspective the reality of the trends that surround us, I get the skeptics. I get the folks who kind of hear that and kind of go like, yeah, really, where did this stuff come from? So what I'm taking on today is to put in perspective what it is I do to undertake my research to come up with insight like this. And let me give you the genesis of the statistics behind this particular quote. Back in the mid 2005, 2006, I keynoted a group called the American Society for Healthcare Risk Management. Thousands of medical professionals responsible for managing medical risk in healthcare institutions. And as with every single conference leadership session that I go into, there was a tremendous amount of research that went into my keynote. I mean, if you're getting up on stage in front of 3,000 people, you've got to have the facts to take the people into the future. And I came up with this observation that medical knowledge is now doubling at a staggering pace every 8 years. Well, about 6 months ago, I did a virtual keynote for an accreditation group in the healthcare industry, several hundred medical education professionals around the future of healthcare. And I undertook my research and I discovered a fascinating statistic that it's no longer every 8 years, it's every 78 days. And so this is the type of example of the work that I do where there's real insight behind the statistics and numbers and observations that I'm putting out there. But when I put this tweet out this morning, the question came in, well, how do you do your research? Where do you get this insight? How can you provide me with a little bit of insight on how I can do my own research? And they sort of had a subcontext to this, which is always kind of fun. Don't you just make this stuff up? Don't you just grab numbers out of the air? And I want to walk you through a little bit of the process of what I do to undertake a very specific research within industries and feed that to my global client base. And again, remember who my global client base has been in the past. NASA, Disney, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, the World Bank. I mean, some of the world's largest organizations have brought me in for my insight on what comes next. So here's the process. Number one, I do extensive research for each and every keynote that I do in any single industry, whether it's automotive or agriculture or manufacturing or retail. And my secret weapon has been that I've been doing online research for probably close to 35 years. The most powerful tool I use right now is something called Dow Jones Factiva. And what it lets me do is I can go in and I can say, I am looking for any articles from tens of thousands of publications, news sources, research publications, live blogs, other media sources, for anything having to do with this particular trend. So I can go in, for example, and say, I'm looking for any articles, research papers, studies, observations, surveys that have focused on the concept of medical knowledge, the growth of medical knowledge. And it might come back and say, well, look, I found these 1,000 articles. I will then plow through those 1,000 articles in order to update myself on the extensive research that I already have. This is a powerful tool. And I've been using this type of thing since about 1987. I mean, I've been online for quite some time. And actually, during the early 90s, I actually operated for a little time as a competitive intelligence professional, where I was using tools like this to undertake very detailed analysis of trends, of companies, of observations, of things going on in the world. This is my number one go-to tool, but this is enhanced by continuous trends tracking. I've got a whole variety of very sophisticated tools in place which are helping me monitor particular topics, helping me monitor particular subjects, helping me monitor particular trends. And these come into me with a variety of sophisticated systems by which I can track the trends which are important to me. So if a client has engaged me for a talk on what is the next issue that is going to emerge with the industrial Internet of Things, by way of an example, I will turn on my trend tracking tools so that I am fed a continuous stream of information on what is going on with that particular issue. I call this just-in-time knowledge, keeping up with the ability to get the right knowledge at the right time for the right purpose for the right subject. All of this is based on science. I follow exponential science. I follow what is happening with very particular areas of science in order to keep up to date with where we might be 5 or 10 years out. If you follow the research which is underway today, you can get a good overview of where we're going to be 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 years out. And so I follow a number of very scientific focused publications, very science-oriented observations, very science-oriented industries. So for example, in the world of healthcare, I've been tracking pharmacogenetics, the genetic marriage of pharmacology, pharmaceuticals, and genetic science combined with what has been going on for DNA. I've probably been tracking that for close to 20 to 25 years so that I can keep up to date with the rapid development of new science in that field. And that is a lot of the science that has led to where we are today with the mRNA vaccine program. It's something that has been coming at us for quite some time. As part of this process, I seek out and follow those, let's call them the folks who are out in front of any particular industry. So I had a post a couple of years ago, the future of just about everything is found with batteries. Well, what I do is I track a fellow over the Netherlands who talks a lot about electric vehicles, talks a lot about battery science, talks a lot about the future of energy. And I track him on a regular basis in order to keep in mind and continually discover new science, new developments, new accelerating capabilities in terms of battery science, because batteries are actually at the heart of so many industries: energy, electric vehicles, what we are doing with the electric grid. I mean, it's at the heart of so many industries, it's staggering. So you've got to follow those who are out in front. This is enhanced by the ability to watch the edges. That's what I call it. I watch the edges. And this is where a lot of the innovation in our world is occurring today, out on collaborative crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter, where individuals are designing and inventing the future. But it's not just that. It's what are everyday individuals doing to change their industry. And I'll give you a fascinating example. Tractors, combines today are being shipped with a lot of connected intelligence built into them. A lot of farmers, a lot of folks in the agricultural community are discovering that there's certain things they can't do with their tractor because that tractor has become a connected device. And what they are doing is they're actually hacking the tractor vehicle, they're hacking the software, they're hacking the systems in order to get around some of those issues. This, to me, is a staggering trend, because this feeds directly into where we're going in the world of the connected car, the connected vehicle, what happens when every device becomes intelligent. And you can learn a lot about where we're going in the future in terms of how people are re-engineering the future that companies are attempting to create. Watch the edges, because you discover a lot of magic that is occurring out there. Another key part of my trend assessment is assessing the timing. I talk a lot about timing as being one of the most important issues to track when it comes to any particular trend. My tagline has been, the future belongs to those who are fast. And it's our ability to assess and understand the issue of timing which will really define when a trend comes about. So I've got a number of filters that help me assess when any particular trend that I'm watching or identifying or researching, or which is crossing through my sophisticated tool base, when it might go supernova, when it might become real, when it might begin to have a real impact. I do a lot of work to align to earlier insight. You have to understand that with a 25-year track record in this space, I've heard a lot of CEOs tell me about the issues in their industry, what they are focused on, where they presume they are going, and what they need to have me get across to their global leadership team in terms of aligning to the future. And there's a lot of really good examples occurring out there. So, for example, in that trend of cars becoming computers, the reality that is occurring here is that a lot of major automotive manufacturers do not have the skills, they do not have the capabilities, they do not have the insight to align to a new and different future. And you can get a really good overview of what trends mean when you put it in the context of things that I've seen occurring in that industry already over a 20-year time span, and combining that with all the current existing trends which are underway. So, for example, just in the last couple of days, I came across an observation that somebody who has a brand new BMW, which is a connected vehicle, sophisticated, vehicle becoming a computer. Well, if they wanted to use a particular lighting feature on their headlights, they had to make a connection and they had to buy the service through their vehicle. I mean, this to me is a fascinating trend to watch, because it indicates to me that here we've got a situation where a car company is trying to carve out a business model, which in the context of other industries that have tried to go down that path hasn't really succeeded. That goes into my filtering system and becomes a part of the trends research, which I'm continually doing. Look, a key trend is putting any trend that I see, whether it's a trend from the past or a trend that I'm picking up or a trend that I'm researching, putting it through my hype filter. This is not my first rodeo when it comes to trends. I just did a video, a couple of weeks ago about non-fungible tokens and about GameStop meme investing and what is occurring with Clubhouse. And I've seen so much hype through the years. This particular video clip, I'm with a national news program in Canada in the year 2000, and I'm talking about the forthcoming .com collapse because these companies didn't have a business model. They're not going to survive because their business model happened to be, let's give stuff away at a loss and we'll make it up in volume. I mean, it made no sense. So what I do is I put any single trend through my hype filter to assess whether it's real or not. And we know there's a lot of trends out there that are not real. I also put it through my velocity filter. How quickly is it evolving? How quickly is it becoming real? What trends do we have coming together that might take a variety of different disparate trends, put them together, and it leads to massive acceleration? So these are the things by which I analyze all the trends that are occurring around me. Last but not least, I watch for the vociferous skeptics. Look, some of the things I talk about, people laugh at me. And I remember being on a national TV news program about 1997 when Napster was around. And I was on the program with the senior vice president of a music company, music company industry executive. And I was talking about Napster, and she was all, this is about theft, this is awful, this. She did not get my point that this was a fundamental transformative shift in the music industry, and that it was going to lead to the death of the CD, the death of the album, the death of the concept of people buying music. It was going to lead to this new world. You can learn so much about the future by listening to the skeptics, those who are so stuck to their business model that they cannot comprehend that a new future is unfolding. And with that, you've got to look for the laughter. Look, about 2003, I was over in Stuttgart, Germany at Mercedes-Benz headquarters, and I literally predicted the business model today that exists with Tesla. I did it in the context of perhaps Google becoming a car company, but if you look at the video clip and you watch it, you can see I pretty well much nailed it. And you know what they did? They laughed at me, and that said to me, when they are laughing at me, I know I'm on the right track, because what happens in a lot of industries, what happens with a lot of senior executives, is they immediately discount any disruptive trend which shakes up their world. I mean, these are the types of issues that I'm covering in terms of what I'm talking about and what I'm researching when I'm going to my clients and putting it through my 25-year filter of assessing trends and what it means and what we need to do about it. That's a little bit of an overview of what I do, and you have to understand all that in the context of my client base. I mean, I've been booked by some of the world's largest organizations for senior level executive leadership meetings to put in perspective for them their future and what they need to do about it. You can take any particular industry. You take healthcare. I've talked to healthcare insurers, healthcare companies, Hospitals, literally every single major pharmaceutical organization in the world has had me in at one point or another. The research I do is real, it's concrete, it's substantive, it's transformative, because my job as a futurist is to take people into a world that they don't know what happens. And literally what happens when I get on stage and share this insight with folks, they kind of realize with the depth of the insight that I am bringing to them that, yeah, this is how my future is going to unfold. This is what is going to change, and this is what I need to do about it. I'm going to leave you with a couple of video clips to watch, because what I'm putting out there now is an increasing number of post-pandemic trends, observations as to where we're going to go next in this very strange and wonderful world in which we are finding ourselves. Give these a watch and then think about what you need to do to develop your own trends research capability, your own trends radar, but most importantly, what you need to do to align yourself to a world in which the future belongs to those who are fast. Everything you've just seen was produced here live in real time in my virtual broadcast studio. You can learn more at virtual.jimcarroll.com and learn more about post-COVID realities and the disruptive change yet to come at post-covid.jimcarroll.com. Good to see you. Thank you for watching.